Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Shivangi Walke, and I'm the founder of thrivewithmentoring.com. Thrive is an organization that catalyzes mentoring relationships for women and is now present in 10 cities around the world. And I am here joined by Femke Kroes, who is a Thrive mentor and also a business and startup mentor, and of course, a very successful entrepreneur. A very warm welcome to you, Femke. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Femke. Femke, can you, for our audience, give a short snapshot of your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yes. I worked for over 20 years. I've worked in the communication industry. Yeah. 10 years ago, I was asked very often when I was still employed with a company, like, can you do some work for us? Can we hire you as a freelancer? That was also the time that I just gave birth to my second child and then husband a lot away out of the country for work. And I decided I want to start my own business. I didn't actually really have a clear idea. For the demand is there. Nothing to lose, let's go for it. So then I started a comms business, communication consultant for all kinds of companies. Went really well from the beginning. Yeah. But then after a few years, then you had all these contacts. I never invested in network really. And that was my first challenge, I think. It was like, oh, wow, how do I get now new work in and new jobs? I have to do I have to actually promote myself. And that was the scary part, how to sell myself, how to get new clients out of that inner circle in. So that's when I started to network. Was not my favorite thing, is still not my favorite thing, but I found really a way to deal with it. So without coming too much out of my comfort zone, looking for like-minded people, working together with people was for me also really important. Till then I did everything on my own, always. Because I thought, I know what I want, I know exactly what people need, I don't need anybody to advise me. So after 3 years doing that, I realized I need people around me to talk with, to exchange ideas, to help me with other things. Yeah. So that was an eye-opener. That worked out quite well. Took a while, and then I was asked more and more often to help startups. So people saw me, I was an entrepreneur. I liked it. I really love what I'm doing. And people said, we want to start up a business. Can you help us? Can you support us? So like 6 years ago, I started, I call it my second business. And that's startup business mentor.
Right.
My biggest challenge, because that was a bit, what my biggest challenges in my journey were, I think, lonely. I like to be on my own. I always have that, but this is another kind of loneliness. I felt really lonely in the beginning. So that was a challenge, and to renew yourself constantly. What was 10 years ago a very good idea is already, well, I almost want to say old-fashioned, but you need to change, renew, and that's connected with that loneliness. You can't do that on your own.
I think, that's such an insightful thing, because the feeling of loneliness that you mentioned, the lack of community, the lack of a network, I think that that probably is the most scary, because when we are used to being in organizations, we have a structure around us, we have a team, we have a boss, we have predictability, we have security. And as an entrepreneur, you lose all of that, social glue. Yeah. And you need to recreate it. So it's not that it's not there. It is there, but in a different form, right? Yes. You need to find ways to create that structure for yourself and that ecosystem that will help you to succeed. So what are the sort of things you did, Femke, to create that community to support you?
Well, I needed a team around me with creative people, so website builders, designers, filmmakers, photographers, editors, and I always used them. I just hired them, basically.
Yeah.
I had a business, I hired them. We were, I liked them, enjoyed them, but it was a very kind of formal connection. So my first thing I did was get them together, talking with each other. What's going on in the market? What do you like to have your own business? So I really looked first very nearby in my, in a circle, like who like-minded people.
Yeah.
And then I am also curious how you experience. I never really talked a lot about my business private-wise. I was not impressed about it, but I was also a bit tired of getting always the questions. People know it quite often know it a bit better when you talk about business. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Are you sure? Is it not insecure? A lot of negativity, or do it different. I have an uncle who does do this, these kind of things. So I never really talked about it because I thought, oh, well, I changed that. Talk more about what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing. And so really sharing my story of being an entrepreneur and what I'm doing with other people. Yeah. And people did get my enthusiasm and then spread the word. So, and then people came via. My clients always come via. It's always via a network. I never do hard sale. I never get the phone and say, listen, I'm Femke, do you need me? It's always via. And I believe quite in a natural approach. If you believe in something, you are very, very happy about something, people feel that. And they're happy to share that with other people.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true, right? I mean, there is always this tension between how much you want yourself to be known out there. I'm recently speaking in my own work around, the importance of personal branding, and how much do you want, to position yourself as the expert, and people come to you, right? And I think that's always, sort of the balance. As Thrive mentors and mentees, of course, we have a lot of people, a lot of women who are in jobs and who are considering, who might be on the fence for some time, for some people even a few years, who are considering that they might have a skill set that they would like to bring to the market. But because of all of that unpredictability, insecurity, and all of that, they are very reluctant, to take that jump. As somebody who has been an entrepreneur, for more than a decade, what advice would you give them, Femke? What are the 2-3 things that they could or should do to position themselves for success? I mean, because some of that scaredness and, lack of credit, it's real, I mean, we don't need to downplay that. That is real.
Yeah. I think, I've got a lot of advice, of course, but I think a really important thing is that you really need to know your reasons and your targets, why you want to do what you want to do. That sounds very simple. But I sometimes, when my mentor says, we get stuck already there, because are the right reasons why you start your business? Is that really the reason you want to do it? Or are the other reasons? And with the plan you have in mind, can you achieve what you want?
Yeah.
Also, that sounds very simple. That's not always the case. So that's, I think, the first step. What do I want to do and what do I want to achieve with that? And I not only mean financial wise, but what does it has to bring me in life?
Exactly. So the why, right? You're really asking and you're right, Femke, it's probably not complex. So it's simple to understand, but it's not easy. I think that question, to be honest with yourself and say, why am I doing this? I see a lot of people, because of the struggles in corporate life, reorganization, etc. It's more like, running away from that reality, and then, starting their own business and so on, and then struggling to succeed. Because I think this away methodology, that, I don't want to do this, hence I will do that. That may work, but many times it doesn't, because you really need to have this towards mentality, right? Being clear in your mind. Why am I doing this? And also there is some amount of market savviness that is required, right? I mean, you and me, we had skills that are marketable. I have been in learning and development roles, but always, even within a corporate, tried to be the trainer, the facilitator, and then that helps, right? Because a lot of these large corporate roles, they're not easily marketable on the open market. If you've been doing like large projects for corporates, and then what do you offer on the open market suddenly? So what's that skill set that somebody will pay you for?
Yeah, and also what happens, very often people start what is beautiful, their own business out of passion, out of beliefs they have. What is beautiful. But sometimes also they lose themselves a little bit in it, so they don't take a look at the targets group. What do they need? I can think it's really good. I can think I'm really good in this, but what and how do my target group want? And that's also, I think that's a challenge, and that's also what I would advise if you think about starting up your business. There's two things: do something you really believe in, very important. You believe in. But don't forget the outside, the external world. Is that something you think there is a market for?
Yes.
You market it. Also, that sounds very simple. It's not always the case. And the third thing, what I find important is find out, and you know a lot about this as well, what is it what makes your company unique, special? What is the DNA of your company? If you are the only owner, what's your DNA? Because your DNA brings you bring that into your company. But I always say, when somebody comes with a plan, I want to start my own company, and this is the plan, and I say, oh, that sounds very good. But what if somebody else do exactly the same, but for a lower price for your product or service? And they say,
how do you differentiate yourself, right? And I think that's the biggest challenge today with being such a flat world, that everything that you may produce could be done at a different price point by somebody else.
Exactly.
I had a recent example. I put out something on the market, and then somebody else undercut, the price by like 1/10 or something, and trying to put out. Of course, I mean, this is where then your brand becomes important, right? That it's not just about the service. You are associating the service with the quality that you bring, and that's where your rucksack of skills, your pedigree, I mean, in whatever they might be, academic qualifications, the roles you have held, the network. I mean, I really believe that the network is your net worth, sort of people who will easily say, okay, X and Y, the products sound the same, but you know what, behind X, there is this person, behind Y, don't know who, and will, choose X then. I think that is such a, I mean, you've spoken about those three things, right? Like a sweet spot, something that you're passionate about, something that there is a market for, and somewhere I also believe in experimenting, so not going all out there just because of, you need to do some solid market research, right? And I encourage a lot of women who've been speaking to me around this topic to start with a side hustle, so don't give away that well-paying job right away, but start something small on the side and experiment with it, right? Try it out, see what works, see what resonates, and then try and change your approach and do something else, right? Because too many people are so disappointed by something that they thought they're very good at, and something that they thought there was a market, and then they put it out and it falls flat. I mean, there are just too many stories of that happening, right?
I have actually quite often people come in for I call it always like a feedback session. So they have just started a company. They come in and say, do you have a look? What do you think? How can we improve? And they show me the logo, the business card, beautiful website. We go through it. And then and this happens really often. And I say, listen, what are you actually selling? Why are you doing what you're doing? And in what way? So exactly what we talked about. The whole branding part is missing. So it all looks beautiful. And very often they come to me, of course, it's not only for the feedback, but the business didn't bring them already what they had in mind. And I said, you have this in your mind, but you haven't actually been able to communicate this properly. That's also very difficult to what you want to bring to your targets, but communicate that well in a way that people understand what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and in the way you are doing. That's all the DNA of your company. And you will be surprised how often it happens that they already in stage 7, I call it, the last stage. The last stage is your website and your logo, and they skipped all the steps before.
All the foundational elements, yes.
It's not there. That's really
that is some of the challenge that has happened in today's world, right? I mean, you can go to a Fiverr or an Upwork and get a beautiful website, and you can get so many of those things out there which don't cost you as much as they used to just a few years back, right? But that basic foundational work that you need to do, asking yourself the why, the what, the how, the when, all of those questions, I think they're not that easy to find an answer. Because the answer, I mean, in my own experience, the answer keeps changing. That's the other thing. At a particular time, you need to say, okay, this is what I'm going to try and work out, I don't know what, for the next 6 months, and see how much it resonates, what works, what doesn't work, and then iterate, right? I always believe in this good enough principle, because I think some people I have seen, they get stuck to being perfectionists, wanting that beautiful thing with that investment. So usually with a lot of investment upfront and then market for it. I heard some crazy numbers, Femke, like in the US, which is of course the most entrepreneurial friendly country in the world, because of this mindset, the growth mindset. Try it out, let's see what's the worst that can happen. But there's like some mind-boggling number, like 80,000 businesses or something being launched practically every month in America, and out of that 80% not staying alive for more than a year. And I'm like, isn't that incredible? Because the society and the mindset is really helping, but because some of that work has not been done, all of these dreams, they don't come to fulfillment. And then once people burn their hands, they of course lose then that passion and became a bit jaded. And I think that whole downward spiral then starts, right? I mean, personally, I really believe that to set up yourself for success, it's really good to work with, a business mentor is a great example. But like you said, who else? Who can support you? Who's been on that journey, in their life? And how do you create a support system that will help you? Femke, can you speak a little bit to that? What has been your experience also for the sort of, clients that you work with?
Do you mean the way of support you can look for?
Yeah.
Well, what I see, what happens a lot is that when people start a company, they get a lot of these questions. The what if it's not successful? What if there is no money coming in? What if, and it's quite difficult to find that support network that, what I said in the beginning, that moves you forward instead of stopping you and makes you insecure. So the first step, I think, is to realize who is supporting me and thinking along with me, and who of the people around me are actually stop me in this journey. That's a painful process sometimes. Very often I really ask, and people say, why are you asking me this? How does your partner experience this? Does he or she support you? Is he there? Does he have doubts? Because these elements have huge impacts.
Huge impact,
how you experience this whole journey of becoming an entrepreneur, and how bigger that, I call it almost a negative group is, how more difficult it is to get the other people in. But that's really, really important. What I advise my clients, because I do it myself, be active in several groups. You know, I'm a tribe mentor, so that's a way of meeting people, but I also work as a volunteer for the Basel Startup Academy. Sure. I'm surrounded with students, all kind of startups. I went actually last night to an event. It's so energizing. It's so nice to be with people who do understand what you're going through. And there's no competition. You dare to help each other. So
Definitely,
you can.
yes. I mean, the diversity of the network can be, very, very life-giving, right? It's something that can really pick you out of the dumps, so to say. I was also speaking at an event last night, and there are two younger women who have started an organization called as We Space in Zurich. And it is really like a community co-hub space where they're inviting women entrepreneurs. And again, there is this conversation around men, women, and you and me talked about how some of the entrepreneurial challenges are different for men and women. But if we stick a little bit to the women piece, I think women do really underestimate, what they can achieve. And what I have found very curious about women is they're actually pretty good at forming relationships. Yes. But they're not as good at leveraging these relationships, right? So it's not that they don't have the network. They have the network. They have the relationships. But they don't know now how to convert this into something that will support my business, right? So they struggle to put their price points out there. I know. Yeah. I mean, that conversation. Or, even if, I have women friends and, I've often, heard them saying, if I put out something, like there is recently somebody I know who put out a business on creating like a fashion box, so clothes box that comes to you every month, and you can pick and choose whatever you want and leave the others. And she said one of my biggest challenges is that my own friends who would be or could be very good customers and who can pay, they still hope that maybe they can be my trial ones and that they don't have to pay for my service. Yes. So that's the other piece with women. One is not able to leverage. The other is how to really speak about your value to your own friends network, because initially it is true, they will be your customers. That's how most of us start.
I always lesson one to especially female entrepreneurs, because they struggle often more than the male entrepreneurs, say from day one you charge the full amount for your service or product. No matter if it's your neighbor, your partner, your best friend, from day one you charge. Next to that, you can do you can do volunteer work, you can do trials. I mean, there is a lot of other ways to give freebies or, share your knowledge. But from day one, your business is open, you don't do anything for nothing.
And people don't value things which come to them for free, right? I think that they do not fit. A transformational coach I recently read, he said that one of the reasons people come to him are because they want a transformation in their life. But then he charges an extremely high fee for that, and people said, yeah, but that just means that only a few people can afford you. And he said, yes, because those are the only people who will put skin in the game. And he said, it's not even about the money, because in the meanwhile, he's a multimillionaire. It's not about the money, but the money that people put in actually also creates an internal drive for people. So in a way, by putting things which are free out there all the time, you not only devalue yourself, but you're doing a disservice to your client too, right? And I think some of these mindset things, they're so important, for us to not just understand, because I think we do understand these things intellectually, but how do we be these things, right? How can we move it from something that we do to something that we are, that we represent, this is us, and then take the scary path of saying no, or being rejected, I think that's the other thing.
Oh, that's also really
How have you dealt, Femke, with rejection? That's such an important piece of being an entrepreneur.
Well, first I did find that really, really difficult because I always took it very, very personal.
Personally, yes.
Yeah, I thought rejected mean they reject me, not my product, not my service. It's they reject me. It took me a long time and a lot of talks with coaches and to realize it's not about me. It's about maybe not the right connection.
Yeah.
You know,
Not the right time for them, not the budget. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I have also I had actually a client last week, and he asked me, he said, listen, I had this proposal, I never heard anything back. I'm so afraid to go again because maybe, to email him again because maybe he thinks, oh, there is he again. I said, we do not know. We don't know why he's not reacting. Maybe he hasn't think about, has other things to do. He's very busy. Go ahead, email him again. He did. And I was invited to pitch there. It's sometimes that simple, but we take it very often very personal. We think,
and it's the stories, right? It's the stories we tell ourselves. When we can plant, I think, all kinds of scenarios that look quite doomed, and in reality, it might be, that his server crashed and he did not even get that email for whatever reason, right?
Yes.
So we never put a positive spin. We always imagine what's the worst, that could have happened.
Always the negative. I call it always the what ifs. What if this? What if that? Instead of, some of my clients said, we were so done to hear always what if. And so she said, how do we reacted? What if the time is right now to do this? I think that's the most perfect answer. It is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and I always say,
you were in the midst of a sentence. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I always say to my clients, like, in life, you don't regret the things you do. You regret the things you don't do.
You don't do. Yes, I think that is so very valid.
Yeah.
I think most of the times we fear the things that we are actually keeping ourselves away from, right? So I think it's so critical to take that leap. And I'm not suggesting, being very foolhardy, but really taking the leap and trying out things and really thinking for yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Because I think our mind has an amazing capacity to create a far more worse scenario than what happens in reality.
Well, I sometimes ask when people are getting scared or the business is not going very well, we always talk about, okay, what is the worst case scenario? So they come quite negative in, and we talk about the worst case scenario. And then very often we have to laugh. Because the worst case scenario is not bad.
Yeah.
We always say, is that it? Is that what you're so scared about? Really?
Yeah. It feels far scarier when it's not out there. And I think that really helps. Oh, yes, thank you, Femke. I wanted to shorten this conversation, but it has been amazing. And we have got some amazing comments from our viewers, and hopefully we'll keep receiving those. I recommend Femke for whoever is in Basel or wherever in the world, actually, if they want to work. Startup and being a business mentor, really, to be able to take that leap. I know her to be a very powerful and an amazing lady to work with, and as you have seen in today's task, she will say as it is.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Femke. Have a very nice afternoon.
Yes, you too. Thank you, Shivangi. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.